Another round will bring you down. Another round won't save you now.
Yeah, reverse sweep coming up.
Big win for the Camelot Kings here. And the Valkyries have done it not since week 2. It is the D aside for the Oni Warriors, and they have pulled this game back from the brink.
But the rest of the Solar Scarabs follow up, down go the Titan, and Lafra's got the first. What a 1-2 punch from the Bolts.
The damage comes from the Leviathans until Zapman puts them down with the snipe.
Defend their Titan, and the Tartarus Titan send us on to a game 3.
The Jade Dragons have come to play. 5 kills in 7 minutes.
Well, welcome one, welcome all to week number 3 of the SMITE Pro League, powered by our title sponsor, Alienware. If you want to get some of the best gaming gear on the market, you can go to smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW to get all the info on some of that great gear, the Aurora Ryzen 10 desktop, the 240Hz 25-inch gaming monitor, or anything else that Alienware has to offer over at smitegame.com/Alienware. You can also follow Alienware on their social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram at Alienware, or go to AlienwareArena.com to join their ever-growing global community. I always get a tongue twister when I say it, so I don't know why I say it every time, but we're going to keep going with it. Thank you once again, Alienware, to sponsoring the SMITE Pro League here in season number 8. And to kick off week number 3, we get to have 2 great games right off the bat. We get to have our immediate one with the Titans and the Valkyries, and we get to have the Bolts and the Kings as another match. It's J Mac Tucker. Joining me for this first set is going to be Mifflin here on the desk, and sure to have some fun today, and it's sure to have a really fun week, and we got some great games ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm excited for this first set, man. It's going to be a good look at the Valkyries. The Tartarus Titans obviously been on a bit of a heater recently, and the Valkyries a little bit not so much on a heater, but I've got great expectations for this team. I think that the Valkyries should be able to make some strides here, especially considering 8.9s rolled around. Johnny, a tried and true assassin player. We'll see if maybe he can buckle up and do some heavy lifting.
Maybe some buffs around to the other lanes. We did see Uller get a nice little buff in 8.9. We've been seeing some nice success from him, but let's take a look at the schedule to see what we have ahead for the entirety of the weekend, and not just for today. Tartarus Titans and Valhalla Valkyries will kick off week number 3, and the Olympus Bolts and the Camelot Kings to close out day 1. Then we get to have a double in-studio matchup. We could have the Olympus Bolts and the Atlantis Leviathans to kick off tomorrow, and the Jade Dragons and Solar Scarabs to close it out. And then the Scarabs will come back one more time to face off against the Valkyries, and the Kings once again against the Oni Warriors to round out the rest of the weekend. Now let's take a look at the standings, and it is a close-knit race here in the top 5. 3-0 for the Leviathans, the only one undefeated so far. They'll sit at the top of the bracket, and everybody else below them, or at least the next 4 below them, 2-1 for the Dragons, Kings, Titans, and Bolts. And then the Warriors, with only 1 win, they sit at 6th. And the Solar Scarabs and the Valhalla Valkyries will be seeing them face off later. So if the Scarabs can't get a win over the Dragons, well then at least one of these teams is going to come out with a win by the end of the weekend.
Hey, the Solar Scarabs are considered the Dragon Slayers for good reason, though, so maybe don't hedge your bets too much on that one. The Solar Scarabs have got a pretty good matchup history up against the Jade Dragons, but as you said, man, the Valhalla Valkyries versus Scarab set, always super fun to watch.
It's always been, it's been back and forth. Last phase, it was actually a 1-1 between those two teams. Now, not to take anything away from it, that was kind of the fallback of the Scarabs when they kind of had their little bit of a roster apocalypse there, but Valkyries, they can still make some waves, and now they're going to have to make some here against the Tartarus Titans, who is a really big team to go up against here, specifically in that mid lane Paul, which I think is where a lot of the sparks are going to fly for the Tartarus Titans team. He's played 3 gods since the Phase 2 playoffs, finals, I should say, because he did play some other gods in the semifinals, but since the Phase 2 playoff finals, he's only played 3 gods, Tiamat, Raijin, and Hell, and he's looked good on every single one of these picks.
Look, man, it feels weird saying it every time I see Paul, but every time I see Paul, it only solidifies this opinion. I think that this guy might be the best player to have ever done it. I mean, legitimately, for my pick throughout every single year, the dominance that Paul has shown, especially in recent matches and recent LAN events, has been stifling, staggering. Any ring you can toss on there, because he is just so good. I think it was Dave that essentially said during one of his casts, hey man, you guys are doing really well against the Tartarus Titans right now, but you haven't gotten through that one facet of the game where Paul's just going to come up in a big way for his squad, be it a quadra kill to reverse the odds around a fire giant, or a 1v3 scenario, or something sick like this, like finding a collat kill with Tycho drum, then turning around and applying even more damage to the rest of the fight. This guy is he's just got a firm grasp on what needs to be done, and he does it.
I mean, the early to mid game is kind of where we see a little bit less of Paul. That's where the action kind of goes around Paul's side of the map. They just let him get that free farm, and it's the late game where we really get to see Paul shine. Let's talk to Paul just a little bit for our pregame interview. Paul, always good to have you here on the show. You had a bit of a tough first couple of weeks, some big matchups. You come out 2-1 out of it. How's the team kind of feeling after that loss to the Camelot Kings last week?
Yeah, I don't know. We're all right, man. It's just the regular season. Like these games aren't like super duper important. So I don't know. Like we're still happy winning playoffs. We don't really mind that much. You troll, man.
It is just regular season. You still have an entire group stage to go through. You're playing up against the Valkyries. Do you have any expectations going up against this squad?
I'm not entirely sure. I feel they're still all in Europe, I believe. So, I'm assuming we win, but I mean, who knows, dude? Who knows?
Speaking a little bit more specifically towards the mid lane, you've played, kind of we talked about, you've played 3 gods in the last like 4 or 5 sets that you guys have played. Namely, those two of them have been the Tiamat and Raijin. What are your thoughts? Are those still kind of just the top 2 mages right now?
Yep, they are, but they're getting nerfed. So you can expect that to probably change in the next patch. But right now, yeah, Tiamat and Raijin just do too much damage.
All right, well, Paul, good luck in your match today against the Valkyries. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, man.
Like I said, we're assuming that we'll win, and I think maybe there's a lot of expectations with most of the folks at home thinking that this one will be going in favor of the Tartarus Titans. And as you kind of talked about, Tiamat and Raijin, yeah, still kind of top of the mages, even though they will be getting a nerf with that 8.10. I think maybe even the balance might see a little bit of changes to those gods. But speaking of kind of changes to the meta, you highlighted earlier a little bit of a buff to Johnny for the Valhalla Valkyries. I'd say even maybe a little bit of a buff towards Zeros. We have been seeing some of those kind of ability-based hunters get a little bit of a buff with the Jotun's Wrath, the Transcendence buffs, and Neath, one of those gods that Zeros really got to bring out a few times. He's really shown some semblance towards it. And even Uller getting a little bit of a buff. Could be a nice little bump up here for the Valkyries.
Yeah, I think it was Zeros originally that said that mid-hunters might come back in a big way in 8.9, thanks to the Transcendence buff as well as the mace changes, kind of helping out gods like Neath, like Ull, and even on her if you want to take them into that mid-role. And those are all 3 gods that Zeros has got plenty of experience playing inside of the mid lane. But I think that really it is up to Johnny, right? Like, it is really up to him to step up for this squad. The jungle now being a broad sweeping hyper carry role for just about every single team. Johnny having such a sparkling performance in the European SEC and making his debut in the SPL this year means that I think there are some expectations now that the meta is a little bit more so in his favor that he should be able to perform.
Yeah, that 2v2 is going to be where it's really tough for the Valhalla Valkyries going, Johnny Zeros versus Paul and Layers, and that's where we've been seeing a lot of that 2v2 action really start out for really both of these teams. The Valhalla Valkyries, they've gotten to play a lot of early game this year. They haven't gotten as much chance to play towards that mid-late game, especially over towards that later half of the game. So if they can make some early strides here in the earlier stages of Game 1 and even in Game 2 when we inevitably get over to there, because we'll at least have to have 2 games no matter what. The Valhalla Valkyries, if they can kind of step up like they have in the last couple of sets, they look good in their match against the Bolts in the early stage. They look good in their matchup against the Leviathans, even taking both those teams, I think, to, 28, 29-plus minutes each. Something that we haven't really seen much out of the Valkyries up until just recently.
I'm sorry, I was mesmerized by this fidget spinner that Aurora's playing with. I think he just held it up to his. It's not moving, but it's going really fast. Give it a second, it's gonna do a little spin, dude. How is he doing that?
He's a magician.
How is he doing that?
It only took 2 weeks, and these guys have all gotten really good at this fidget spinner.
Didn't he just learn how to use the fidget spinner last week?
No, Paul just learned how to use the fidget spinner. The other guys were teaching him how to use it. We actually had an impromptu tutorial here on the desk to show Paul how to use one, and now he's going to become a master with it, maybe with the rest of his team, and maybe they can bring in that fidget spinner energy, and maybe they can get that energy to get a nice little win here over the Valhalla Valkyries in game number 1. Expecting a lot of jungle-centric bans maybe towards Johnny. He was able to get the Loki both games last week. Didn't really see a whole lot of success with, but maybe that also comes to the fact that they're giving up Tiamat Yamoja as first 2 picks towards the Bolts, and probably not a great team that you want to give those picks over towards.
Yeah, speaking of people you don't want to give up a Tiamat towards, Paul
no.
has had some great performances on this god in the past, but I'm really excited to see what Layers' picks are going to look like, right? I mean, we've seen him go towards the Erlang Shen here and there, kind of still bringing that style of gameplay into the jungle into 8.9, maybe a remnant of 8.8. He has occasionally gone towards the Gilgamesh as well, so we'll see if he wants to kind of continue down that path or whether or not he's going to go back more so towards those traditional assassin styles. I think this guy on the screen right now has got some question marks about what he's going to elect to play. Could go for those, again, standard auto attack speed style hunter builds. We've also seen people just jamming it down, Transcendence, and then the entirety of the Mace tree. So I'm very excited. Every time we get these broad sweeping meta changes, every single week of the SPL, at least for the first 3 or 4 weeks, are going to be very different as all these guys try to establish what really is the meta right now.
Well, we got to get a taste of the meta last week. Let's see if that sticks around here in week number 2 of this meta, week 3 of the SPL. Let's hop into the picks and bans for game number 1 between the Valhalla Valkyries and the Tartarus Titans and see where all the pieces fall into place. Again, a lot of jungle changes, the majority that came from the 8.9. We saw that Johnny still showed his priority towards Loki, though he has been showing flexibility with some of the other gods. Even Erlang Shen is one up in his wheelhouse, so maybe we'll see a little bit of fighting over that more auto attack centric warrior. And really, when it comes to Johnny, outside of the Loki, it feels like the auto attack junglers has kind of more so been his namesake since he's come up in the SPL. Even his time back in the SCC, it was Kali, Bakasura, Al Kwang. Like, those were the 3 that you banned away against Johnny no matter what. We haven't really gotten to see much of any of those pretty much for the entirety of the year. We got to see a little bit of a resurgence of Kali at the start of Phase 2, but outside of that, not much to be spoken for. So the first bans come out, Helen Ul, the first god's taken out immediately by the Valkyries, and then a Loki Geb response from the Titans.
Yeah, I think Johnny actually said when he shifted up towards the SPL that he likes the auto attack style junglers, the Bakasuras of the world, the Arachnes, things along those lines, but he doesn't think they're necessarily very good at a high-tier competitive level, and since then has kind of allowed those picks to fall by the wayside. Occasionally, we've seen him go towards the Kali, as you said a little bit earlier, but outside of that, generally has really been a little bit more so towards the Erlang Shen. The Loki has been great for this guy in the past, so immediately the Tartarus Titan's going to go ahead and target that one out. And these bans are something that we've become very familiar with here in the SPL. Odin going to round out the bans for the Valkyries, and the Tartarus Titans remove Artio with their very last. And the Valkyries now, in first pick position, have their options ahead of them. Could be a Yamoja for support. Tiamat is out there if you don't want Paul piloting that pick. That could be a good place to pick it up for yourselves. So we'll see where the Valkyries lie their priorities. But with so much still available, this could be something a little bit off the beaten path. But instead it is Khepri. It is a support pick, not Yamoja, but still an incredibly strong one. Scarab's Blessing is just a straight-up annoying tool that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to deal with in the game because you thought you had just killed a god, and then Scarab's Blessing comes through, and now you gotta either try and hunt him down or you just gotta let him go. You know, one of those last little things. But with that taken, that leaves the Yamoja available for the Titans, and then a set immediately after. You kind of alluded, maybe Cyclone, maybe Layers. You never know where this one's going to go, and that's kind of the interesting thing with, I would probably say, exclusively the Titans. You see set on almost any other composition, any other team, you know that one's going to jungle, so we'll keep our eyes peeled where this set falls into place. But that does leave Tiamat back open again. I thought this was going to be Yamoja Tiamat instantly, but instead the Valkyries now have the option to pick that Tiamat if they want to go with it, but they're not going to at all. Instead, it'll be a Terra and a Heimdall to round things out, which means we will be seeing the Terra go back towards Ducky over in solo lane.
That's a scary front line that the Valkyries have got for themselves, but now we get a look at whether or not Paul lied to you on the desk a little bit earlier on. If the Titans take either Raijin or Tiamat here, and I believe they should, they can ban out the other one and make the Valkyries fall down exactly 1 tier, at least inside of that mid selection. So we'll see whether or not they decide to go that path, and if they do so, which one they'll go for, and they do not. Soul is going to be the pickup, and now the Titans, again, do have the opportunity to either ban Tiamat or ban Raijin if they're worried about the Valks taking it for themselves. And just so we're all clear, Paul did say verbatim, this is a direct quote, Raijin and Tiamat are the best mid laners in the game right now. Both were available, and both were ignored.
Maybe he was doing that just to kind of bait everybody, like,
The audible mix-up.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, these are the best mages. Guys, don't pick these mages. They're absolutely bad. But, hey, they're really good, and we make them look really good. But maybe they aren't all that. No, I can't say that. I've seen 3 Tiamat Quadra kills in the last 2 days of competitive play that I've watched at all levels of play. So, yeah, maybe Tiamat is kind of good. Maybe Raijin is also kind of good. But we won't be seeing either of them so far. Still has potential if they want to throw this soul over towards Cyclone and throw the set in the jungle. I'm not going to hold my breath. We won't see Raijin. He'll be banned away by the Titans. The Valkyries still need to find their mid laner. They ban away Nike, who we've been seeing a decent amount here in the SPL. We've been seeing a ton of it in the NASCC. Seems to still have a ton of value towards this solo lane pick.
Yeah, it could go into the soul lane, also has flex potential into the jungle, so maybe the Valkyries keeping their eyes that way as well. Anything that has cleave auto attacks is just going to utilize mannequins so incredibly well and is going to work out inside of the jungle for the most part, so Nike being removed from the table makes sense to me. Cerberus as well has been a very dominant force inside of the SPL, so now with all the bans rounded out, we still do have Tiamat out there and available. So we'll see if the Valkyries decide to go that path. Zeros has not had a ton of success on this pick in the past, so maybe something he's not really willing to go towards here, and the Titans going to call that bluff as Cthulhu is the hover. That's a lot of frontline. That's a lot of CC. It's decent sustain for your team. Actually has very large AoE healing, and when you've already got self-sustain from Soul and team-wide healing from Umoja, that kind of adds up in such a way that if the Titans are allowed to reset inside of these late-game team fights, be it around Gold Fury or Fire Giant, they're probably going to come out ahead in those fights just because they have that amount of healing on their side.
And then, as you highlight there, when you couple it with the healing that Umoja has, his self-sustain, soul self-sustain, this is going to be a tough god to chop down. And once he goes up into that Descent of Madness, he becomes a very tanky god, a ton of HP that this Heimdall is going to have to be the primary one to try and chop through. For the jungle selection out of the Valhalla Valkyries, they will go with the Erlang Shen. They were having a little bit of an extra option maybe to look towards, and instead it will be Neat. So we're not going to see Tiamat at all. No pick, no ban. Maybe she's not all that great. Or maybe the Valhalla Valkyries are just going over towards some more of that comfort selection for themselves. Johnny's been doing really well with this Erlang Shen the last few games that he's been able to pilot it, and Neath has been a widely successful god for Zeros out of that mid lane, especially with some of the buffs that we've had. And yeah, Neath coming to the mid, not super surprising. There's Susano to round out the draft for the Titans. Well, that does mean that this set is going to be going over to Cyclone Spin.
Yeah, they were having some pretty decent success on the set ADC as far as the laning phase was concerned, the Tartarus Titans that is, but late game team fights struggled a little bit, weren't quite able to go towards those neutral objectives as well as those tower sieges, really struggling, not having a hunter for your squad, and that might be an issue here for the Tartarus Titans. But looking at these drafts, man, this Susano might just have a field day inside of this game. It feels so good to have 2 hunters to be able to run down when you're playing a true, tried and true assassin out of the jungle, especially with all those mace changes. Could go towards the Transcendence if he so elects. I mean, Hidden Blade plus Heartseeker probably just like one shot to Neath with your ultimate inside of the late game. So I'm pretty excited to see how this one pans out, and we've got a soul this time around for the Tartarus Titans. So you're not struggling so much around these tower sieges. Maybe a little bit. You just got to keep that heat stacked up.
It could be difficult for this Erlang Shen to really catch some of these gods too. I mean, you take Susano, one of the most mobile assassins in the game, next to, I would say, maybe Serket, probably the only other one who really rides up there as far as super high mobility on the assassins. And you also have a Set who has a decent amount of distance that he can cover when he pops that sandstorm and teleports to one of those spawns. So it's going to be a tall task for the Valkyries, but they've got a composition that just screams comfort more than anything. Ducky looked really good on the Terra last week in the solo lane, able to get some nice early picks with the help of Johnny. And then you have a Khepri to back you up with the Scarab's Blessing. Is something that Raffer has loved to play over the course of the last few years that Raffer has been playing here on the pro scene. It's a god that he does generally like to fall back to, and when the god is as good as he is now, what better time to pick him than as a first pick for the Valks?
Yeah, Khepri is so dominant. And here's the thing about the Valks draft holistically. They've essentially put all their eggs in the Johnny basket. Zeros in mid on this Neath probably isn't going to be able to dominate on her own. You got to kind of wait for that global ultimate to come online, then you help out these side lanes. And who's really getting aggressive in the side lanes? It's not Terra. She doesn't have 1v1 potential. She's just there to hold her own until the late game team fight. And Heimdall has decent survivability. You might be able to find a little bit of aggression there, but I don't think you're taking fights up against this Set inside a lane in a 1v1. So instead, it's all up to this Erlang Shen to establish the pace in the early game for the Valhalla Valkyries. And they've got tools around him to allow him to do so. Earthen Fury means that in the early around level 5, that's a decent gank potential inside of the solo lane. Scarab's Blessing means that you can play as aggressively as you want when you gank the duo lane, and having that Spirit Arrow, the global ultimate from Neath, means that you can play just about anywhere on the map and just have a slight numbers advantage, at least a burst and a stun to help you out. But if this Erlang Shen does not do well in the early game, I don't think any lane is going to do well in the early game for the Valkyries.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough struggle for the Valkyries, but they got a good comp to try and run it against the Tartarus Titans. Can they take it here in game number 1? Let's throw it over to Gore, Miser, and Aggro to bring the action.
Let's see what the Valkyries have to offer for us. Like J-Max said, it's Gore, it's Aggro who are going to be taking you through this one. I was just curious as to whether or not it was truly going to be Cyclone Spin. Paul did run some set mid last year.
True.
But with the soul there, of course, they're going to be swapping it. The thing that actually is the most interesting to me, Aggro, and this is something we talked a little bit about last week, but we didn't get to see, it's this Neath mid.
Yeah.
Because admittedly, as much as we like to talk about the assassins, you know, Ulers in that conversation, Neath loves all of the Mace Tree changes.
She does, and I
Look at
think
that.
Neath is actually
Oh my
a good.
God.
Paul is dead
Oh my
to
God!
Zeros.
Zeros just does it to him exactly the way you need to. A great Spirit Arrow for the root, but just good autos. I mean, that was way more damage than I anticipated.
He just didn't miss. It's as simple as that. If you don't miss, you're going to be in a good spot. I agree, man. I think Neath is underrated. I think she does a lot of things really well. I mean, obviously her global pressure is fantastic, but her wave clear is good. Her skirmishing is good. Anytime you've got a hunter at mid, you're going to have really good pressure automatically. And immediately getting a first blood on Paul and getting the beads means that Johnny's got blink, Paul's on soul. You'll die before your disapparate goes off. I'm looking forward to seeing if Johnny can come back and punish Paul quickly here.
I can hear it and the wide distance that it takes to get to my apartment from here, but Katie's squealing with joy. Anything that makes Neath good is immediately a big win for her. I mean, this is a really good pickup for them as well. Some of the early wins that we got to see from very specifically this Valhalla Valkyries team was actually, I believe at the time it was Imolito playing Kronos, although I don't think that matters so much. But having this Neath in the mid, having Johnny on something he could carry on was a lot of their success in Phase 1.
Yep.
And I mean, you just highlighted it perfectly. They have nothing but success lined out for him, at least for the first few minutes. They still got 90 seconds, just a little under there for Paul's beads. Feels like a really good success story in the mid lane, and based on the positioning of the duo lane, they're not hurting much anywhere else either.
No, they're going to have guaranteed pressure over here up against Umoja set, no doubt about that. I think the big thing now is the Valkyries. I mean, you've got 70 seconds where Paul should be a free kill for Johnny, and he's got to try and maximize that you can really set yourself up for success, because the Valkyries, when they start to team fight, their team fighting composition is really, really good on this team. I mean, you've got Terra Kepri, so you've got two legitimate frontliners that are gonna. One is gonna really swing the team fight in your favor with that Terra ultimate, and the other is gonna be able to save anyone who gets dove in particular. So you've got that to do it, and then you've got double Hunter, and you've got Erlang Shen to set him up. The one thing that you have to be worried about is the lack of magical damage, and immediately Aurora is looking to rush a sovereignty based on an Iron Mail, as is the right call. I think Ducky might have to build an actual damage item in this game to make them threaten some magical damage. But if you can get the ball rolling in these team fights, the Valkyries have a really good shot. I think they've got a good draft.
It wasn't too outlandish last week to try and go, at least for the solo laners. Granted, a lot of it was warriors, but picking up some power item early on and then going into a lot of the protection items made him a little squishy early on. It's Guardian versus Guardian, though, so maybe this is the best time for Ducky to try and do that. But it's been a overall patient game. I mean, a very good early first blood for Zeros. But since then, we just saw Layers kind of showing face in the right-hand jungle, looking for some steals on the experience camps. And otherwise, it's been some poke here, some poke there. Obviously, solo lane and dual lane are smacking each other back around, but nobody's really hit that threshold. They haven't been as aggressive as expected, especially after a really good start. But now Jotuns is finished there for Zeros. He's got full mana. Yes, the beads are back up on the other side, but with ults coming up, I start to feel like the flare for the dramatic is going to come up alongside it.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, that's a really easy. It's an easy opportunity for a second kill in mid, and it's certainly disappointing for the Valkyries they're not able to find it. But you've got a big power spike in mid now with this 20% CDR. Zero should be very willing to just let it fly. Wherever they feel like they can get a kill, send it, because you've got 20% CDR to kick off the game, basically.
Now, Johnny had made a rotation over to the duo lane, was sitting right on top of a Vision Shard ward from Cyclone Spin, though. So that one gets called off pretty fast. Layers is going deep, stealing away some experience camps, but this is going to be the engage. Johnny is only going to be able to get the taunt onto Layers, but there's the ult from Zeros, and that's the setup you need. A little bit of extra damage and a stun on top gets him their second kill and forces Benji to fall back.
Just so greedy for Layers to go for the minis after the back harpies. Take the backs, you got those. Feels pretty good. But you have to respect it, especially because he doesn't have beads. That World Weaver is going to cause him serious problems. Even if he would have ran, he probably dies if Zeros gets an opportunity to fire that off, because it could have been an easy blink follow-up from Johnny into a long-range pin into the CC chain. But certainly going for those back harpies was just a bit disrespectful almost there from Layers. You're not going in an even fight when there's an ETH on the enemy team. You just never are.
Also started some different starts. You know, Cyclone's been going for the Bumbas again. I think me and you talked about that a little bit yesterday. Benevolence is being picked up by both supports here, which is something that we didn't get to see as much of last week. But we've got the Mannequin Scepter in one side of the jungle here for Johnny, which admittedly feels like it fits the Erlong versus where Layers is going with it. Is that like a big matchup? Is it just that there's so much viable in the jungle right now?
Yeah, I think the Mannequins is still good on the gods that were building it before. I mean, Osiris, Erlong Shen, those gods. Of course, Bumbas is good on them. But I'd much prefer to have the early pressure that the Mannequins provides. And then you've got the Bumbas for Susano, who's going to be auto-canceling the vast majority of the game come later on anyways. You want to get Bumba's Hammer on him or Bumba's Spear. They're both very good in this meta right now. So you're definitely going to be going Bumbas on Layers in particular for Susano. The thing that I'm a little surprised about is this Hunter's Cowl in mid for Zeros. Something that we haven't seen that much of. I mean, a lot more Bumbas in ADC roles. Doesn't go it for Emilito as well. Both of them going Cowl. So that's a bit interesting to me. And then the Mannequins on the other side for Paul, trying to up his jungle clear speed a little bit and pressure as well.
Well, Rafford getting pressured out a little bit right now. Scarab's Blessing used on himself. Not going to get the res, but gets the movement speed and is able to get away from Cyclone Spin and Aurora. And that's something Mifflin had mentioned on the desk. Despite the loss and the fact that when he got to the teamfight stage, Cyclone Spin last week wasn't able to find as much, the laning phase was just fine for him, and he's got the pressure. They each have a little bit of experience now over Raffer and staying tied with Emilito. Almost getting aggressive here as well. At least looking at the purple buff, not going to be able to steal it away. He recognizes that Cyclone has no mana, sends him through the realms, and is going to be waiting for him to come landing. Layers is just off the side in the jungle, but there's going to be the River's Rebuke. The walls come up. The autos are good, but not good enough just yet. The turnaround is looking a little bit better. Emilito's just trying to stay alive. He does not do so. Aurora finds the retaliation kill, the taunt, but the Riptide saves Aurora's life. He gets out of there, stays alive, and now Raffer's on the chopping block next. Layers has no mana. Paul's low. Cyclone has nothing to work with, but that's not going to stop him from chasing down this Khepri. One more hit will do it, and Paul's able to pick that up. A nice 3-kill swing for the Titans.
Absolute disaster there for the Valkyries. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a solid play, but Zeros got picked off on the rotation. Looked like he got ulted by Layers and by Paul and just killed instantly despite through the beads. And then that play from Emilito, very aggressive because he knows that Johnny's on the way, and it probably was just looking to bait beads. But then Cyclone doesn't beads it, so then Johnny really commits to his rotation. I just kind of expected Emilito to Bifrost out at some point, and I don't know if it was down or if he had used it already. You know, something went wrong there in that rotation, and this is the nightmare scenario for Neath. You know, all the Neath haters out there, this is the clip they show you where, oh yeah, my god's so good, I've got a global stun, and then I just get absolutely slammed as soon as I look down the scope. But just got to be pretty mindful of where you're taking that knee.
And that's, well, the problem there for Zeros.
You know, there are places you can't take a knee, apparently, Gore. Left side mid-harpies and on an NFL field.
I wish I had something clever to follow up with. That's just too good. And, well, yeah, unfortunately, those left side mid-harpies are going to cause you a little bit of trouble. Now it's going to be the turnaround, though. Raffer, Ducky looking to get aggressive. Johnny's in the neighborhood as well as they try to isolate Aurora, Benji, and Layers. Maybe not the easiest targets to take down. Zeros is going to join the fray, so it's a 4v3 with Paul lagging slightly behind. Ducky looking to get a little aggressive. The ult is thrown out. Doesn't seem to be finding him much. Aurora's finally getting a little low. Johnny's not able to find the final hits, and now it's Layers who's going to be taking the brunt of the damage, but it's the Sano ult instead that finds the turnaround. The Valkyries having to pull back from their aggressive play, and ultimately going to come away with just a slightly lower health bar for Aurora.
Couple ultimates used though. I mean, you get Layers ult, you get the Cthulhu ult as well. Benji can't afford to stay too far up because the CC chain is very potent from this Khepri. That's what Khepri does really well. It's not just save backliners' lives.
Well, Johnny just gets the taunt onto Layers. He's looking to isolate him and lock him down. The blue buff is where he turns to stay safe. And a missed auto from Johnny, 2 missed autos from Johnny, are going to allow Layers just enough space to get on out of there. Does not connect with the root from Raffer either. And so Johnny's going to be able to stay alive, or Layers is going to be able to stay alive. Still get a blue buff invade for their troubles.
Yeah, I think that the way that this pace of the game is going is still an okay thing for the Valkyries. I think that they still scale really well into the late game. The question is going to be, can they, number one, deal enough damage to the enemy front line through all the physical defense they're going to stack?
Well, there's the ult from Neath. Paul going to be able to isolate that, no problem. River's Rebuke as well as the Riptide, not quite close enough to catch Johnny off guard, but that doesn't matter. The follow-up is there. They're trying to disengage. Scared's blessing was good, but it's not been good enough. Johnny does fall down thanks to a roar. The bubble bounces and takes his life. Now it's Zeros looking to turn some damage around onto Paul. So far successfully doing so, but that soul healing just seems to be too much. That Bancross Talon putting in the work, and the damage is there. Layers chases down Raffer, and that's a kill under the mid-tier 1.
Zeros has got to be careful because Cyclone Spin's on the rotation. Good backflip, but that means he's a sitting duck.
Yeah, you don't have anywhere else to go. You miss the root. You've got the sustain. The tower's doing everything it can for you, but unfortunately it is not enough. 4 members of the Titans circle the drain, and finally they make sure Zeros goes down.
Yeah, so Neath good in a lot of instances, not so good whenever they're just trying to 3-man group on your support. Don't have that traditional mage AoE in order to punish something like that, and Zeros just can toss out a few auto attacks to try and make the difference. This is the problem now for the Valkyries, is that now it's 3 deaths in a row in mid, a tier 1 tower, a Gold Fury as well, and the Titans just really turning up the heat very, very effectively, taking these mistakes from the Valkyries, forcing them to create some mistakes. A good turnaround on the initiation onto Paul. They're able to really make them pay for overcommitting onto him, and this Yemoja wall continues to be problematic, to say the least, for the Valhalla Valkyries. I mean, it didn't end up catching Johnny in that instance, but it makes sure that that fight can't continue in that way. It makes sure that the fight has to change in its dynamic instantly, and then from that position, Layers is able to come in and play cleanup crew very effectively.
You know, earlier you had mentioned specifically the sovereignty for Aurora being very effective with all the physical damage heavy on the Valkyries. Paul's leaned into that a little bit as well. Yeah. Not only is he going to get that passive from the sovereignty, but he said, you know what, I can also get cooldown.
He loves it, man.
And benefit from it. Yeah, he gets a breastplate of Valor, and that just feels like it's so solid. Takes less damage, plus all that sustain he has. Layers is currently getting ulted. That did a chunk of damage from Zeros. That tier 2 tower is enough to thwart Ducky and Raffer from trying to dive and kill off the Titans jungler. They're going to be forced to run away. 2 Guardians don't have too much trouble staying alive here. It's Paul who might be in a little bit of trouble in mid lane. Johnny gets aggressive onto him. Zeros looking for the damage, but that Disapparate does too much in terms of safety. Spirit Arrow just off the mark. And unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to lock him down. No roots, no stuns, nothing to fight with. And now Zeros actually might be too far forward.
Yeah, this is, you see the little combo there. Is Aurora going to try and set up this chase, but it's Johnny who's going to be the one in trouble.
Yeah, isolated, left alone. Pulled right back into it thanks to Layers. Served up on a silver platter. And while you might not have gotten the mid, you got the jungler, which honestly feels like it's a little bit better. Blink was down for Johnny as well. And now they can start invading. Red buff taken away. Aurora's chasing. It's a Riptide onto Zeros as well. The return damage from the Valkyries just isn't enough.
Not quite yet. I mean, Zero's just not strong enough in his build. His Cyclone looking for Emil on this left-hand side.
And it looks like it should be a good 1v1 Bifrost. The Crystal just barely gets him out of there. Cyclone takes a couple of hits in the process. Unfortunately for Emil, he wants to get aggressive. He sees Cyclone's low. 1 hit is all it takes. And Layers was right there waiting with the ult. Throws it to the mid-tier 2. Kills off the Hunter.
Now Layers doing what Layers has done throughout his whole career when Susano was good, which is just start to be everywhere on the map, use all the mobility, and get all these kills. 4, 1, and 3. He's been a part of 7 of the 8 for the Tartarus Titans. Just an absolute performance from him on this pick. And Susano is just one of those gods that it can feel like, when assassins are good, it's because they can kill mages before they get killed. And Susano is a really good example of one who will toe that line. He's going to do a lot of damage when his itemization is good, when he's good as a character. It is a pure DPS race. And oftentimes, in situations like this, he's going to start winning it. And when he does, he becomes very difficult to handle because he has all this mobility and a lot of CC as well. And he really doesn't have a particularly weak part of the game. I mean, his level 2 fight
isn't great, but Wind Siphon is a very powerful displacement ability, even at level 2. And then as Pre-5 gets a little weak after level 2, you know, 3 through 4, 3 and 4 aren't great. But then as soon as you get Typhoon, your potential to make plays and CC people for a long duration is really, really difficult to handle.
Well, right now, that CC has been very detrimental, and it's much more when you look towards specifically Zeros. Level 13 as of right now hasn't picked up a second relic just yet. He's still trying to finish off stacking that Transcendence. Unfortunately, I see where Aurora is walking right now alongside Layers. Trying to go for potentially a red buff invade, but also maybe just a good collapse. They've got Raffer, Immel, Johnny, and Zeros right here. Now, Spirit Arrow getting charged up, looking to try and help out. And
Nice
that's going to be
res.
a great res from Raffer to make sure Immel stays alive. And now Johnny is left between 3. There's a good River's Rebuke to wall them off and isolate them and funnel them right into Benji's waiting lap. The ult comes through from the Cthulhu. The autos are going to connect, and the damage is there. Paul kills Johnny, and now they're continuing their chase under the Tier 2 tower.
Layers waiting for his opportunity, but actually took a tower shot, so couldn't blink in. The Cyclone Spin still has ult, and he's coming around the back.
Yeah, right immediately onto Zeros. Finds the damage, but a good root from Zeros keeps him alive just a little bit longer. Not enough to save his life, and the same thing can be said for Raffer, taken down shortly thereafter. The good Bifrost Crystal gets Immel out of there one more time. Ducky hiding under the Phoenix as of this point. And the Valkyries forced to fall back. What was a very good early game lead, 15.5 minutes in, now is 11 kills to 2 in favor of the Titans. 6,000 gold and then some because they just pick up a Tier 2 tower.
So this composition for the Valkyries is really good if you can get to late game even, because you just have great DPS, you put a lot of threat on objectives, you've got a staunch front line. All of those things are really, really good things for a composition to have. But when a composition like this falls behind, you are left with very few tools to claw back because you don't have a lot of AoE. And so the Titans went ahead, especially with something like a set ADC and a Cthulhu, they can just deathball on you. They can just group up and gun you down, and what is the AoE that is going to threaten you? I mean, it's you're not going to hit a multi-man Neath root, really. Maybe off the back of a weave. You got to place a weave down
One
and
really
detonate
well-placed weave.
Yeah, and you got to hope the Titans don't see it and walk right over it. And then, but what do you get there, Gore? You get like 350 damage in an AoE root, which is good, but not good enough to win you a fight when you're down 8,000 gold. You know, you just don't have the tools to claw back in this game if the game pace is like this. The Valkyries need to hope that the Titans take their foot off the gas a little bit, and because it isn't in the Valkyries' hands anymore, it is in the Titans' hands. You got to hope that they take their foot off the gas a little bit, that you're able to spread the map and just get some farm on these backliners.
Yeah.
And then that you can start to put some pressure on the Titans on some of these big objectives. You know, put Fire Giant under threat if they don't have good ward vision, they don't back at the right time. Maybe we can make a play there and try and make it work.
2 levels down for Zeros, which is dwarfed by 3 levels down for Raffer, which is dwarfed by what was 4 levels down, is 3.5 levels down for Immel, who is currently getting bonked around his own Tier 2. Good River's Rebuke keeps him locked in with the damage reduction from the Khepri, should keep him just fine and dandy for now. All of that, though, all those level deficits get dwarfed by the 5 levels down from Johnny. There's a nice stun from Zeros onto Paul. Disapparate gets him on out of there. Doesn't have to use any of his relics. The Valkyries are looking for a fight, but they are thwarted at every turn. A great Riptides plays from Aurora. Make sure they can't engage. The Titans are going to be able to get under their Tier 1 tower, back off if they want to, maybe even turn the fight around if they so choose.
Man, it just feels like you're trying to get in, you know, you're trying to sneak in to the stadium or something like that, and there's every gate is just locked over and over and over again. Ducky's like, all right, I got him here. Blink in, Riptide it back. And then Raffer goes to the next entrance and immediately Riptide it back. So a really good play from him and just controlled play by the Titans, not stressing too much about what's going on. They get their Aegis out from Emilito. They don't overcommit, and they just back up as a unit, playing really well as a team.
Have you ever snuck into a stadium?
I haven't. I have not. Yeah.
I have.
Have you?
With CJ Spiller.
Really?
I did not realize
at
it was
Clemson?
CJ Spiller at yeah, it was at Clemson. We were playing Pokemon Go one night, and I guess that would have been 2016.
Was Pokemon Go out when CJ Spiller was in
He
college?
He wasn't there.
Ah,
like
I
he
see.
was in town, but he was not like currently
I was going
playing
to say, CJ
in
Spiller,
school.
interesting. He needed to sneak into a stadium when he was an NFL player?
So it was when we realized who he was, we were like, oh, I probably could, because I was still a student. I was like, dude, I do not want them to find me in here.
Right.
Like, but then he's like, nah, it's cool. I used to play here. And that's when like it shifted in. I was like, oh, your name's CJ, and you used to play here? Like, wait a minute.
He was a sick player.
He was real good. But I did get out of there. He stayed. I don't know for how long. Titans get the Fire Giant here, 19 minutes in. Now they're getting aggressive onto Ducky, finding no issues locking down the Terra. It felt like it should have taken a little bit longer than that, but Ducky just gets burned down incredibly fast. And that is exactly what's happening to this Tier 2 as well, with Paul making up for the lack of otherwise hunters on this team. They get the Tier 2, and looks like the Valkyries are not going to defend this right-hand Phoenix. Instead, they're going to try and find pressure elsewhere. Left-hand Phoenix was in a little bit of trouble, but that is not going to be the case this time around. They're all trying to find back because this Titan is in trouble. Rapper is going to have to ult himself, stays alive with the Scarab's Blessing, but is that going to be enough to stop the Titan from going down? So far, the answer seems to be like, no, it's half health and falling fast. The rest of the Valkyries unable to do anything, and the Titans take game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Titans just, they had a little bit of a stumble off the rip there, that Paul ends up falling. Obviously not an ideal scenario, but after that, the Valkyries just weren't able to kind of keep the momentum going. They just allowed the Titans to wrest control back. I felt like the Valkyries really had a chance. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they had to kill Paul again with his beads down. You've got an Erlong Shen with Blink. The fact that he's able to escape with only 1 death through the early.
After such a fire first blood, what a lackluster way for the rest of the game to go. It slows down dramatically there for the Valkyries, but maybe they'll be able to give us another bit of fire at the beginning of game number 2. We'll see how they handle it right after this.
want to get any of your SPL merchandise, you can go to shop.smiteproleague.com and pick up just about anything that you can think that you might want to find there. Most importantly, we have new joggers and mouse pads available for you. The athletic joggers with all of the team's logos on there, or at least one logo per pair of joggers. I don't think that we have a jogger that has all 8 logos. That would be sick, though. Maybe that's something that we should pitch to them.
Oh, it sounds a little busy.
Maybe so. Maybe, I don't know how you kind of like layer them down like the side and kind of like the seam of the pant leg. Maybe would be one way to go about it. But you can also pick up some mouse pads, each individualized for their team, so each team has a nice individual look to theirs. The Valkyries one actually looks really sick. Every time I see these, I go, "Dang, that looks really cool," and then they show it, and I go, "Oh, that one looks really cool too," and it would be very irresponsible to buy more than one of them for me, but maybe I just have to. You can pick up yours at shop.smiteproleague.com. Thank you, Inside Apparel, for providing all the SPL merch as well as those new athletic joggers. And the mouse pads, again, you can pick those up. Game number 1, first blood within like a minute. It goes to zeros. Everybody's thinking, okay, yeah, Valkyrie's out here to play. And then they kind of got layers diffed for the remainder of the game. A lot of what you were talking about was you really need to have Johnny step up, Johnny get some of those big kills, and we're going to see a whole lot of Johnny instead of his layers kind of bullying every single lane.
I mean, Layers had a game built for him, right? Double hunters into an assassin feels pretty good for a Susano at any point of this one. I mean, you see it right there. You pull the knee, you put the 3 on her. She's gonna backflip because Zeros is deathly afraid, and you just teleport in and finish off the kill. Rinse, repeat, and that should spell how every single engagement goes for the Tartarus Titans. And the Valhalla Valkyries get off to a good start, I guess. As you highlight, it was like 20 seconds in, Zeros just kind of does it to Paul. Seemed like Paul legitimately wasn't touching his keyboard really at that point of the game, and afterward, I think the Valkyries got like 1 more kill, and the Tartarus Titans got like a lot more kills, objectives, and Titans.
Yeah, I mean, we had barely made it back to the break room, out of the studio set we're currently in. We walk out the door, turn the corner down the hallway, and before we can get there, first blood happens. But then from that point on, it's just all Tartarus Titans control. I mean, 6-0 for Aurora, who got Yamoja, and I think it's criminal the fact he was able to pick up Yamoja. Paul, doesn't matter what he played. I'm not going to say that Paul wasn't an impact for this team. I mean, he went 3-1-7. But when Layers is able to just walk across the map as he pleases on the Susano, pick up any god, he could literally just look at any one of these players and go, yeah, we're killing them. Pull them in, and, well, they're going to get a kill. Multiple Tier 1 tower dives. Zeros had absolutely no safety on this Neath. He was able to put up top damage for his team, but I guess when everybody's diving you consistently, you have a lot of opportunities to throw some damage back their way.
Yeah, Zeros does have an admirable performance, one of the standouts for the Valhalla Valkyries in Game 1, but did not stand out for incredibly long. 30 seconds into Game 1. First blood, and then that was just about it for impressive plays from Zeros inside of that one. But the Valhalla Valkyries can bounce back here. I think it's a lot of draft diff, so maybe let's go ahead and hit the drawing board and do like a whole new draft, maybe something a little bit more in line with standard Smite. And the Tartarus Titans didn't play standard Smite, so maybe fight fire with fire, or in this case fight weird with weird. I don't know. That's a hard set to break down. But luckily, I think we're creeping up on P's and B's pretty soon.
And it might be one of those harder teams to kind of try and pull that against, too. Tartarus Titans love pulling out these weirder comps. Let's see if we see some of that same similar weirdness in game number 2 with these picks and bans. I think one of the things, if you're going to fight weird with weird, maybe you take some of the top picks away. Yamoja seemed to be a really big thorn in their side. The sustain became a massive problem when you come towards the late game. And then if you can't deal with the sustain from Moja, how are you going to deal with the tankiness of the Cthulhu? That seemed to be another big problem, is trying to chop down that solo laner who I don't think Benji ever had a single moment during that game where he was ever really worried.
No, Benji was sitting just fine. 0 deaths for him, only 2 deaths for the Tartarus Titans. Those land onto Layers and Paul, respectively, both of which were getting very involved at every facet of the game. I was actually watching a fight between Zeros and Paul. Paul was inside of his Tier 1 tower at about 10% HP, and he refused to walk away from a 100% HP Neath. Paul was playing with complete abandon inside of that game, and it is reflected as he had 50% of the deaths for his squad. Bands starting to roll their way through. Hell, Uller, and Odin, removed by the Valkyries. Tartarus Titans got their eyes on a couple of comfort picks. It's going to be Geb, Loki, and Artio taken off the table here. So a lot of standard stuff, a lot of parity from what we've seen in Game 1, but what does that leave available to either of these teams? The exact same things. A lot of high priority mid laners, Raijin and Tiamat come to mind. Yamoja Kepri still out there as well, and a couple of junglers could come through, but the Valkyries in this position in Game 1 went for the Kepri last time around. We'll see if they like that strategy here.
And that's a difficult choice because Aurora is one of the players who really brought this Khepri back in the meta, and it's one of the things of, do you take the emoji for yourself, but then you give up the Khepri over to Aurora? Well, that's not a fun one. Do you want to give up, take the Khepri for yourself and then leave the emoji up for Aurora? Well, it didn't work out super well in game number 1. Maybe one difference that they can make and have made here is picking up a priority mid laner in the Tiamat as a first pick, and now that gives some option over to the Titans as what do they want to grab for their mid lane, what do they want to grab between those two top supports, and it will be Umoja going to be going over for Aurora once more.
So that does open up the door for the Valkyries to go ahead and take Khepri for themselves. So picking Tiamat, a great decision here, as they are allowed to go towards that priority pick from game 1 either way. And this set lock-in, I don't think anyone's getting tricked here. Probably going the way of Cycle and Spin inside of the duo lane yet again. Maybe not so happy with his slower-paced game of game 1 and wants to get that high-octane style rolling here in game 2. So the Tartarus Titans walk away with a very high-pressure duo lane from their top 2 picks. Umoja has great wave clear in her own right, set, decent poke, great engage, and great all-in potential once he does find those opportunities. Valkyries, though, hovering a Ho Yi this high up in the draft. It's not exactly a priority hunter pick. It's not exactly a super contested pick, but if you are trying to find something a little bit earlier on, this does have decent flex potential for just the Valkyries. Just the Valkyries have flex potential here in that it could go into mid, it could go into duo, but it certainly is going to the Valkyries.
I swear we saw a mid laner in SPL play, another SPL player do this. I want to say it was Venenu?
You know, you said it, and my mind went to Ven, but I can't remember.
I want to say it was Venenu who played this mid. And it's only seen one game so far where there's been success to this Hoyu out of the 6 that he's been played, so not the most successful god out of the hunter role or mid role, whichever one you want to throw him towards. But that does leave the Khepri back open for the Valks to take it and the Hoyi. So most likely their duo lane rounded out, as we did see Emil pilot the Hoyi last week. It's going to be a Umoja set Soul, so the exact same 3 as game number 1 for the Tartarus Titans, and we're not seeing any of the same bans from the Valkyries just yet. It'll be a Serket and a Wheelish. Love to see the Susano ban if they decide to run with a similar comp, and probably don't want to give that same comp over to the Tartarus Titans. They're going to say no Erlong Shen and put Johnny in an interesting spot and make him kind of pick something completely different here. So we'll see if the Valkyries decide to ban the Susano, and instead they will not. They will take the Daji off the table.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see maybe like a Thor from Layers. The Tartarus Titans seem to be having a little bit of fun with their draft here as Ares now being hovered, and if Ares does get locked in, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud on the air to a couple thousand people, but could go into the jungle.
Could.
Has some flex potential there. Some of the Flames changes at the tail end of Season 7 means that he can clear out waves a little bit more easily, but a god that is more suited to the jungle is going to get locked in. Thanatos, the Hand of Death for the Tartarus Titans, going to be piloted by their expert jungler. And, well, I've got great expectations for it, considering how quickly the Tartarus Titans were able to turn around that early game lead that the Valkyries had in the last one. So what is the response on the other end? I want to see early game aggression, man. The Valkyries got ran over after the 1 minute mark. So let's see something and then kind of hang in there for a little bit.
Looking at a Raven, that will be locked in to give something very aggressive for Johnny. He can try and start making some strides outside of just the jungle itself. A lot of high early damage, a lot of good chase potential. Going up against a Soul or a Set, you're going to need some good chase. Even at Thanatos, you're going to need some kind of lockdown. And when we talk about lockdown, what's a great Soul laner to do so? Tyr, going over the way of Ducky in the solo lane. He's shown some really strong success with this god. Back in phase number 2, there was a couple of really good plays. I want to say there was one specifically against the Dragons where he was able to get multiple multi-man pushes to save his mid laner. It wasn't enough at the end of the day, but if there's not too many players left in the SPL who are really going over towards this Tyr, Ducky, really one of the few.
No, yeah, Ducky's one of the only hangovers. I mean, as far as this season is concerned, I'd say that Julio comes to mind as one of the premier tier players. But now Ducky going to try and carry on that mantle. Raven is exactly what I was asking for out of the jungle. A great early game presence, has great scaling now that the Mace Tree is looking a lot better as well. Decent survivability if you're worried about the hovering death. Overhead kick, largely going to be able to make you avoid that one, as it is essentially like a Beads Aegis built into your kit that also applies damage. But that Ares will eventually get locked in. Shades of Deathwalker here, probably headed for the soul lane.
Yeah, there is some potential for it. A lot of flexibility with this god, mostly, almost exclusively seen in the solo lane. We have seen some shades of it, as you highlighted, via Deathwalker and solo lane. You did highlight how it does have some jungle potential. The Flames are really good. They're really good at clearing out camps. He is one of the best camp clears of any of the Guardians in the game. But when you're looking at a Thanatos, I don't... Do you think that there's a chance we
No.
see Thanatos solo?
No.
No?
No. I mean, like, I hope not.
You hope not.
Yeah, I mean, like, can it happen? Sure. Yamoja could go into mid, too, for all I'm concerned,
Why
right?
not?
But, like,
Just do it.
oh, well, I can come up with plenty of reasons why not. How much time you got?
Let me give you 10 seconds why Umoja shouldn't be played mid.
Because you have a soul on your team. Yamoja's clear is bad. Her scaling is poor with power. And instead, you'd be lacking a frontliner because soul with defense doesn't really do a lot for you.
Okay, well, there we go. There's some reasons why you shouldn't play Umoja in your game. Also, I think
No,
you
wait,
could
in mid.
In
Not-
mid.
in your
in
game
mid.
is pretty
in
good.
mid in your game.
There you go.
You probably could have just said there's a soul and a set, and that probably would have been enough to say you don't need to play it mid.
Yeah, but you gave me 10 seconds.
I
I'm gonna
did give you
stretch it.
10. Yeah, you could have just stretched. There's a soul. There's a soul. There's for 10
Well,
seconds, but
they,
I guess
would have hated that.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
Looking at this draft, Ares most likely going over towards solo lane. Don't think that we'll be seeing it in jungle. The fact that we do have a Thanatos locked in here.
Oh, you think so?
This draft for the probably so.
I think a Thanatos can go into the jungle.
I think the Thanatos can go.
What
in the
about
jungle.
soul lane?
I think he can do solo lane. You
Yeah,
build him
would
a
you
little
like
bit.
that?
I would like it. I think
All right,
it'd be fun.
what's good about it?
I think it'd be fun. You have the execute, so you get a guaranteed amount of HP. As long as you get them low enough, you can kill them with the
And
execute.
that is solo exclusive tech right there.
No, it's not solo exclusive, but it means that you don't have to build a ton of damage. You can just be a little bit tankier.
That
harass
is
the
true.
backline. Death Scythe hits hard no matter what stage of the game. And you don't really have to build a whole lot because you get a free 10% of their health every single time that you slam it.
Oh, wow.
And you get a silence.
Oh,
That's
you got
eternal
me.
silence, man. Thanatos is pretty good, though. Probably in the jungle a little bit better than the Ares. Looking at these two compositions, how you liking the Valkyries' chances here in game number 2 with this draft?
Whew, how much time I got?
All right, I'm not going to keep doing this one with you.
I don't like their chances in game 2.
All right, well, there you have it there. A tier for Ducky. Raven going into the jungle for Johnny, something a little bit more aggressive than the Erlong Shen. Maybe equally aggressive, but I have the true assassin damage versus kind of the pseudo-assassin damage that you get out of an Erlong Shen. A decent amount of lockdown, at least with the root, but more than anything, a lot of chase. And the immunity from that hovering death, as you were highlighting just a little bit earlier, probably one of the strongest suits to kind of go up against this Thanatos.
Yeah, I mean, just the ability to, not have to dedicate one of your relics to dealing with that ultimate from Thanatos is pretty nice, but I think the Valkyries find themselves in a very similar position in that if Johnny does not do well in the early, I don't think the Valkyries are going to do well.
Can the Valkyries bring it back and take us to game 3, or the Titans going to sweep it out here into? Let's find out on the battleground.
Let's find out right here, as it is the Ares solo for Benji. And admittedly, Aggro, this actually has some pretty good counter matchups to tier, at least in terms of stopping Fearless Chains.
Look,
also seems pretty good against Raven and Kepri and Hui
Gore,
and Tina.
everyone talks all the time about Deathwalker Ares solo, right? That's all everyone wants to talk about when it comes to Ares solo. But it was Anatoly who did it first, okay? That's all I'm saying. It's the Toli Ares solo, and then Deathwalker did it second and better, for the record. But still, these are the matchups where we've seen it. I believe it was against Tier for Deathwalker and for Anatoly when we saw it. And look, I mean, if there's a time to experiment, get some real opportunities to get some live testing, I'd say this is a fair one to do it.
And, well, so far, it seems to be going pretty well in the lane. He's got a lot of damage there up against Ducky. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because my arm's just kind of awkwardly going off to the side.
I think it looks, you're showing off your tattoo.
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks cool.
Just so you can look at it.
There you go.
Eventually, I'm actually planning already. I have like 3 or 4 more tattoos I want to get. It's a lot of money, though. That I don't
it's expensive.
want to spend, but my birthday's coming up, so I'm like, hey, Katie.
Happy birthday, Noah.
What's up? But yeah, no, I hurt my ankle, so I'm holding on to a thing over here.
Listen, he made an epic pickleball shot, okay?
Sure.
It definitely made it over, and no one is questioning that. But it did cost you your ability to stand and walk. At least
The
in the
walk
short
part
term.
is definitely what hurts. We have 2 dogs. I haven't been able to help take them out.
Well, that's what Katie's
I also have to, you have to go up the stairs to do it, and so
Yeah,
I was
that's
just like, hey,
unfortunate.
Katie, I'm just going to chill, have
Yeah.
fun doing all the work now.
Unlucky for her.
Oof.
Yeah, that's how it be sometimes. But look, I mean,
This is how the Valkyries feel right now with Ducky. He's hurt under the tier 1 tower already.
yeah, I think you're probably feeling worse than Ducky because Ducky has health potions and sustain.
I've got ibuprofen and
Those are worse than health potions. Objectively,
my
right?
body can heal.
Health-
There's slight
ibuprofen-
regenerative
I
properties.
feel like ibuprofen is almost more like protections than it is a health potion, right? Because it just it doesn't stop the pain, but it just lessens it a little bit.
yeah.
So it's it's a little bit better.
Yeah, I
than
still
that.
can't wiggle it despite the ibuprofen.
No, yeah, you're not. You shouldn't be doing that for sure. Look, overall, Ares solo definitely always fun to watch. Very good up against the tier because it stops him his ability to clear. But Ducky's gonna be maxing the 2. You don't really need to fearless the wave. You can just keep it on your side, continually power cleave it in defensive stance to sustain. And Ares shouldn't have that much kill potential as long as you're dodging out those chains, which is the really important part. But as he gets into these team fights, it's kind of the same thing we talked about last game where you've got 2 legitimate frontliners for the Valkyries. Now, I mean, they had Cthulhu and Yamoja last game. Obviously, those are 2 Guardians, but Cthulhu more of a dive-oriented Guardian. Ares can play a little bit closer to his backline and provide that team fight presence. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for the Valkyries to be able to kill all of this front line that the Titans have.
Yeah, and especially because Ares that's free beads. I mean, at the very beginning of a fight, like it creates a lot of problems. And so I expect something from Ducky, but so far the lane phase did not seem to be going the way he wanted to. Those chains as well helping, maybe not thwart his clear since most of that's in the cleave, but doesn't help at all when you're trying to just stay alive or get away. They do get the team out, though. They still have a decent draft on the side of the Valkyries, and despite the fact that they have some counter matchups elsewhere on the map, it definitely seems like they're going to have some powerhouses existent for them. It's just the question of whether or not they're going to be able to make them work. Already the damage seems to be good. Johnny just trying to get out of there. That's revenge for last time. It might have been Zeros who got the first blood. Paul scooping it up this time to make sure Johnny stays a little slower. Now Layers looking to potentially lock down this Tiamat. A little bit of damage goes a long way. The silence is just a little too late, and Layers is going to have to fall back.
Zeros uses beads there. Very surprised. I don't think it was going to do him a whole lot of good in that instance. Was trying to preemptively beat the Stellar Burst, I suppose, and stop that slow from coming through, but just a bad decision by the Valkyries. You have to wait for the Titans to decide which mid-harpy they're going to go to, because you just lose the 2v2 so hard up against Thanatos Soul as Robin Tiamat. So instead of being the first to a mid-harpy, you have to wait for them to commit to one. And if they stand there in mid and don't go to one, then you can send Johnny to try and take some pressure off, just go farm his jungle, so that at least Zeros is getting solo farm in mid. He'll lose both mid camps, but I think you were going to anyways.
Yeah, and at this rate, now you've got an aggressive jungler who has a level lead. I just saw Layers go and clear out the back camps. Last time, it was a little too aggressive because of the early lead the Valkyries have been able to pick up. This time, that's just playing Thanatos, baby. He's getting aggressive. He's even going for a speed buff as of right now.
Whoa!
Once it respawns, but it's Imolito who's going to get aggressive under the tier 1 tower, and they're going to have some help. Johnny's lurking in the jungle. Aurora's half health. He gets the kill. Maybe leaping too far for it, but he walks out none worse for it.
No, that's a great play by Imolito. Just knows that Cyclone has to respect it, and if Cyclone doesn't use the beads, and I don't really blame Cyclone in that instance, because what absolute psycho is going to jump into my tier 1 tower at 2 minutes and be able to get this kill? But Imolito knew his damage well, went in there and get the knock-up, guarantee the follow-up auto, and then just use the beads on the way out. Aurora had the meditation, but wasn't aware that Cyclone was that low. It's been very, very difficult now for this set to try and come back a little bit in this lane, because Imolito is in a really good spot to try and bully out this assassin in the duo lane.
I like the aggression so far. And like you said, if you're going to bully out an assassin, you got to do it fast and soon. Level 4 already for Imolito, so he'll be the first to tick over to 5. Speed buff was stolen away, as mentioned before. And so the poke seems to be going in favor of the Valkyries, while everything else seems to be starting up in favor of the Titans. It's already sitting just under 1,000 gold ahead, and it's slowed down a little bit from the junglers, with one successful gank already having happened. I guess it wasn't even a gank, just a good fight for Layers and Paul. Makes things a little more interesting. I gotta keep my eyes on this engage right here. There's the Suns that get dropped down onto Aurora's taking a lot of damage. There's the Root as well. And with the mark of the Golden Crow, it's going to be a simple stun off the wall and a couple of shots from Immel. And that's going to be able to find the kill. But Hovering Death, Layers lurking in the sky and comes crashing down, gets the stun, gets the Death Scythe, and now the chase is on. Raffer has no mana to work with, maybe enough to get a dash here soon, but they're getting chased. The damage is there. 2 assassins is too much to handle, and Johnny just has to watch in the jungle.
Yeah, that's just not enough to come in and help. I think Johnny makes the right decision by ditching the team there, because that rotation from Layers just too well timed. But I like the aggression from the Valkyries in this duo lane. I mean, they hit level 5 first because Imolito got that first blood. You know you're going to have kill potential with that ultimate. I like their play to kill Aurora. It's just good timing from Layers to get over there and counter gank.
And just being able to showcase, I guess, what they have to offer here already. Great plays from both teams, but the Titans with a little bit more of a retaliation available to them. And that seems to just be the way the early game's going to go. That's where we talked about it. Last game, we were talking a lot about the late game for the Valkyries and how it could be great if they got there even. I feel like Tiamat plays into that pretty well tier as well. I mean, good team fights a little bit later for the Valkyries. It takes a lot longer to get online. Paul is going to be taking a little bit of damage for his troubles here. Up into the sky once again is Layers. The Hovering Death comes out. I don't know who he's going to be able to land on. It's going to be Zeros, but he's not going to be able to lock him down. The beads well-timed from Zeros and keep him alive there. Layers has to walk back away without his ult.
Yeah, really good beads from Zeros because Raffer is still only level 4, not going to have the opportunity to use that Scarab's Blessing. Like the aggressiveness from Paul, dropping the ultimate, trying to set up for Layers, and the aggressiveness from the Titans, you know, they're not just letting the Valkyries do what they want and then trying to punish them for any oversteps. They're also trying to create their own opportunities. Layers has been very active so far.
Yeah, I'm going to give another peek behind the curtains. They brought us some Maxnomic chairs.
It's like casting from home, right?
Not only that, but like, so like 6 months ago, maybe, Katie stole mine. And I haven't been able to sit in it for a long time. I forgot how comfy this chair is.
It is comfy.
She took mine away from me because, like, the chair she had was awful, so she needed one.
Well, that just tells
you. But then she took mine.
That's just the move of a good husband, Gord, to give up your very comfortable Maxonomic chair to your wife who needed it. I think that's
She's also
a
better at
selfless
SMITE.
act.
Maybe that's how we need to decide it. Whoever wins more 1v1s gets to keep the SMITE chair. It's like a trophy.
Wow, that is.
Unfortunately, she has beat me in countless. So.
Yeah, that is going to be difficult, I think, because Katie kind of a beast, low key, and then also. You're not going to feel particularly good about it, even though because you're going to sit in the chair, and then she's going to be kind of sad, and you're going to feel a little bit guilty, and then it's just no one's going to be feeling good.
Yeah, that's a good point. She can just keep it.
Yeah, sometimes he's got to hold the
It's
L.
a good chair. It fits her better too. Like her, I don't like. She's just small, so it's like a big chair for her. Either way, right now Layers once again going into the Hovering Death. I think I know where he's going this time around. Emel's not going to get far. The execute comes crashing down, and the Suns were used as well. So a clean kill onto the Hunter, 4-2. 7 minutes into the game, and the Titans are starting to push themselves up to a 2,500 gold lead. As we are just hovering around that mark. Scorpion on the left-hand side looks like it's going to be started up, taken down by Layers. So the first round of enhanced buffs over there going his way. And this is where the control starts to come in. Now that Scorpion's out of the way, Gold Fury is going to be coming in. The Titans have been doing pretty well on the left-hand side of the map. That's a little scary for the Valkyries.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. They get 2 kills in duo, and all of a sudden they're both behind for Raffer and Emelito. I mean, Emil kills Cyclone with a nice little play, but just a couple of ganks back-to-back put Cyclone back in control. And whenever the set ADC starts to get a lead, starts to be able to put things at his pace, it becomes extremely difficult to play against because he's just got such a long-range teleport. If he hits you with that skewer, slows you a little bit, starts walking at you, forces the dive bomb, and then he just Sandstorm teleports after you, you're kind of out of offense.
What a good two-man stun from Aurora. Just stops the aggression from the Valkyries duo lane, keeps himself alive, and is able to walk back to, well, what I thought was going to be the safety of Cyclones, but it seems like Aurora has a different thought in mind, wanted to go for the purple, just off the mark with the ricochets from Emelito, but the damage still seems to be there. Good body blocks from Raffer. Stop a little bit of the Riptides, but not enough to lock down Aurora. He's going to be able to walk out of there just fine. Johnny's looking to get aggressive. You've got a Tiamat Minotaur running around in the jungle. Not going to be able to find anything, so everything fizzles out.
Okay, man. I gave Paul the benefit of the doubt last game because it was 4. You know, it was a 3 physical comp, but double Hunter plus an assassin, 2 Guardians. My man's still going breastplate, even when there's a traditional mage in the mid lane. He can't help himself.
He knows who he's more worried about. Aurora needs to be worried. They have been chasing him down consistently so far, and that's going to be a good kill onto him. But over on the other side of the map, Layers is able to help take down and kill off Ducky, using that Hovering Death one last time for a good gank. So it makes sure that he's able to at least trade 1-for-1 support for Solar. Paul looking to make that even more favorable. One more hit is all they need, and he's going to be able to find it with some tick damage from the mannequins. And now it's Zeros, who seems to be biting off more than he can chew, getting aggressive, good damage onto Paul, but Layers is back, and Layers is looking for more. Layers takes down Zeros, and it's now 7-3, but Cyclone spins incredibly low. Suns dropped from Emelito, and he is trying to run away, but he has to go through the Tier 1 tower. Cyclone's chasing, Raffer's there, and Cyclone has no help to work with. But guess who? It's Layers one more time. All you need is a Death Scythe. Emelito doing good jukes, but not good enough. Finally, the kill comes out. The Titans pick up another.
Smart play from Emelito. Knows that Layers has got to choose one in that instance, and he makes the right choice. You go for the Hunter instead of the support. every single time, but runs away from Raffer, jukes back towards the enemy tower, make sure that Layers can't instantly cascade his death into a kill on Raffer. But 6-0-1 for Layers, who's really just putting on a show, was on the Susano and now again on the Thanatos.
This is what I was worried about for the Valkyries, and maybe they should have been worried about a little bit more as well. Gold Fury started up by the Titans. Raffer tried to contest it. Raffer lost his life for it overall. I think every single one of the Valkyries died in that extended engagement now with Raffer going down, because it started with Ducky over on right. And so big pickups across the board for the Tartarus Titans. You'll never guess who's piloting a lot of them. 7-0-1. Layers on Thanatos right now is the bane of the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, it's just been easy for him so far. Ooh, Ricochet nearly landed.
That would have been hot
there from Emilito. That was awfully close.
Oh, hey, Layers maybe trying to get his first death. Does make it up into the hovering death. And now they're standing just close enough. He's got backup. He is going to back off here. Thanatos not that risky. And there's going to be the chains, the pull in from Benji. Johnny chained down. And he's not going to be able to escape from that one. Again, another kill for the Titans, not trading anything out in the process.
Man, worst case scenario there for Johnny. His ultimate must have been on a fraction of a second of a cooldown whenever he got yanked in, and then tries to use it, dies in the animation, takes the cooldown anyways. A rough sequence there for Johnny on the Robin, who doesn't even have any CDR to try and make up for it, so because he went Brawlers first, which is appropriate up against what the Titans have. So unfortunate set of circumstances for him. I mean, the Titans just doing what the Titans do. Playing really well, playing aggressively around Layers in particular in these early stages. I was saying on Waiting Room that I want to see Layers allow the back line to shine, let Paul and Cyclone be your primary carries and try and just facilitate them. But I mean, if he's going to play this well on the Thanatos and the Susano, then he can certainly be the primary win condition for this team.
It still shows some of the experimentation they had last week. It's not Ganesh set in each game, but running the Umoja, something that you know is going to work really well. You've got your carries elsewhere that you know are going to be able to perform, Paul and Layers in this case. And then you're able to throw out the Ares solo as a counter matchup to the tier. You're able to pick up this set twice, who had a much better, I say, lane phase in Game 1 so far than here in Game 2. Hasn't necessarily been suffering either. Cyclone's got a 1-level lead. Realistically, we saw where that power comes from. It is the ganks that he was providing for his team, looping around those Tier 2 towers, Tier 1 towers, and just catching the back line of the Valkyries off guard. Speaking of getting caught off guard, I don't think Ducky expected all three of these players to show up. Pyromancer, Tier 1 tower, kill onto the solo laner. You get all three if you're the Tartarus Titans, push your lead up to about 7,000 gold.
Yeah, I think Ducky's expression there in the player cam tells the story. Just a frustrating set of circumstances for him in the solo lane. Gets hard counter matchup. No ganks from Johnny. I mean, you just can't. He fell behind early, Johnny in the jungle, so you know I understand his decision to focus more on farm than ganking, but you just can't let this Ares solo get away for free. I mean, all you have to do is blink root him, and that should set up once his chains are down, and then Ducky can fearless him. I mean, he's got blink. You can get behind him. It's not a hard gank to execute on that right hand side, and that's the thing is for the Valkyries is I think that they've just lost so much confidence, and understandably so with their situation, but they have these opportunities in the early stages that they just don't take advantage of pretty consistently. Last game it was Paul's beads being down when we've got Blink Erlong. This game it's an Ares solo. You know, you just can't let those opportunities go to waste, because good teams will just snowball the game on you if you let them.
And so far, there hasn't, like you said, been too much that you can fight back with. A little over a minute, maybe about just under 2 minutes for that Oni Fury to be spawning up on left. Much longer than that before there's a Pyromancer, so realistically, we're maybe in a little bit of a state of limbo. The Titans don't have as much that they can just run down and take off the map, but they have gotten 2 Tier 1s, 1 Tier 2, and exposed to Phoenix on the right-hand side. Ducky forced to blink just to get away from this Ares, who is not slowing down alongside the Umoja. That blue buff is forfeit, Ducky. You got to get out of there. And it seems like he seems to recognize this as well. Layers is in the left side jungle, right now hovering around where the Oracle Harpies could be, but he's going to be going up in the sky and looking for the ganks. Sun's dropped by Emilito, but now Emilito looking to get dropped by the rest of the Titans that are coming in here. 2 assassins, again, too much for him, and that's going to be 1 clean kill. Scarab's Blessing used for Raffer, but only delaying the inevitable here. 1 more hit is all you need, but no, the peel is actually good. Johnny is able to help pull this away. Layers goes a different route, though, and the ult does not connect. We have the good rotation from Zeros, but it's not enough to help them out. Johnny goes down, Raffer goes down, and now this mid laner is stuck between 5 members of the Titans. They are going to collapse in and make him wish he had never been there, as Tier 1 is shortly thereafter going to fall.
Yeah, we're getting close to the 10,000 gold lead at 15 minutes. I mean, this is what's the fastest game this season, Gore? You got that off the top of the dome?
It's 18 minutes, 20 seconds, I think, somewhere around there.
Okay, we got a chance to beat that one.
They could do it right here. I mean, no Fire Giant buff slows things down, but at least Phoenix.
There is only 1 Tier 2 left. I mean, the Titan isn't going to be super tanky here.
Getting aggressive onto the left side, Phoenix. Taking a little longer, I think, than they would like it to. Paul finally getting some autos in there, and that seems to be what they need. Good pull back from Benji. Grabs Immel, and they burn him. River's Rebuke is thrown up, and it's going to cause a little bit of a delay. I think Aurora was hoping to catch somebody, or maybe they just didn't anticipate how quickly they were going to kill off Emilito. They get the left side Phoenix, and they back off just for now. 16 minutes into the game, still time to work with if they want to rush it.
So here we go. They get this Oni Fury. That shouldn't take them very long. Though Paul not being here means it's going to take them longer. We're talking about optimization to get the fastest game, okay? Paul not here. He's going to slow this down a little bit. They're going to back, they're going to go to fire, and they're probably just going to go down mid. That's probably going to take them, if they're still not all backed quite yet, I don't think they'll be able to get it. Because look, I mean, yeah, it's just the state of the game, because that's what they're playing against now. This is golf. They're playing against themselves at this point. Not because the Valkyries, they're in a position where they're still here, but they need the Titans to make mistake after mistake after mistake in order to be allowed back into it from here.
So here we go. They've got 2 minutes to work with. 18 minutes, 47 seconds. In Phase 1, that was the time the Dragons beat the Valkyries in Week 5.
Okay.
Admittedly, it was a Game 3. Didn't realize that. I'm glad I take those notes. So they pushed them to 3 games, but they still were able to win that time. The fastest game last year was 17 minutes, 42 seconds. Probably not beating that one.
No.
And I know for a fact. So I had to ask this one very specifically, because the shortest game in SMITE history is 2 minutes.
Right.
And that is
No one
depressing.
counts it. Yeah.
No one's going to be able to beat that.
No.
And then, of course, there were a lot of, like, back in the day when we used to allow surrenders, 10-minute surrenders that would happen. And that's just no fun for anybody. Speaking of no fun for anybody, Ducky needs to get out of here. And Ducky needs to get out of here quickly, as he is isolated and uses his ult to try and disengage. Turns around, good 2-man Fearless. And that's actually a great way to peel for Ducky. Unfortunately, it is still him versus 4, and that is not going to be enough to get him out of there. They burned down the solo laner. Now they're going to burn down the Fire Giant. Yeah. While I have the attention of it, the shortest non-surrender that we have on record was 16 minutes, 31 seconds of the fastest Titan.
Which season was that?
Let's see. I have it written down. Dignitas versus Lion Guard in Season 4.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Lion Guard struggled a little bit, I'd say.
Especially if they have the quickest Titan kill at 16.5 minutes.
Yeah. They lost that game, right? Or did they win?
Yes, I think Dignitas had to have won that.
I was going to say, I'd assume so, yes. Oh, nice bounce.
Wow, yeah, really good bounce.
Okay,
Unfortunate
understood.
that everything
Right.
afterward did not go the way
they
of
got it
Hey,
in the
by
bag.
the way, they get the right side Phoenix as well, and now they're just going to go ahead and run into the Titan room. Layers is distracting Johnny all the while. Ducky trying to come in. Good Fearless is keeping them going a little bit longer, but this is just all for naught. The Valkyries do their best to fight back, but the Titans are overwhelmingly in the lead and win this one 19-4.
I mean, look, not a lot to say about that one. I mean, the Titans get ahead early. Layers continue to just do it. Johnny really struggling to find a way to be impactful in the early, but when you get first blooded that early on right side mid Harpies, then it's going to be pretty difficult. A well-played game from the Titans.
Well, they get not only that, a really, really good showcase, I think, just from Layers all around. That was a really good Thanatos. That last double kill kind of hurts overall. There goes Mifflin. The Titans ran through just like Mifflin ran through that screen. We're going to break down the game number 2, this whole set, and then move on to set number 2 right after this.
And welcome back to the desk for the SMITE Pro League. Tartarus Titans get a swift victory in game number 2 and set a new record for the fastest game in Season 8. 18 minutes and 35 seconds. They're able to close out game number 2 and get a swift 2-0 over the Valhalla Valkyries. A lot of similarities in game number 2 to game 1. A couple of early picks. This time it was over for Emilito, able to get some nice kills in the duo lane, but outside of the kills in duo, not much else going on there for the Valkyries in game 2.
The Valkyries got blown out in this entire set, and those are the hardest sets to break down as an analyst because there's not a lot on the table that you guys weren't able to discern at home as the viewers. They didn't win team fights. They were getting a little bit out-rotated towards the macro game, and then they got beat in the quickest fashion we've seen here in the SPL this year.
I mean, every single time that Layers walked up to any individual, they were dead. There was no hesitation. There was no delay. It's Layer shows up, Scythe auto dead. And a lot of that comes to the thanks of the Hydra that he picked up, the Hydra's Lament 3rd pick that he grabbed in his build, so he could just do that. Death, Scythe, auto, dead. Even in fights like that where you're seeing carries pulled in by a single person, it's just dead. That's all it is. It's Layers shows up, and whoever's near is not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, 14.5 KDA with 17,000 damage in just over 18 minutes. Feels pretty good, I'd say. Maybe a little bit of Layers diff inside of this one. Johnny as well, falling down so early inside of this game. If you can remember back to the desk, and I don't see why you wouldn't be able to remember back to that second game desk, because it was only just about 19 minutes ago. I said that if Johnny does not hit the ground running, the Valkyries likely will not hit the ground running, and, well, that's kind of reflected here a little bit. One silver lining, Emilito looked pretty good on the Hou-Yi, though.
Yeah, got 3 kills early on, but those were almost, I was going to say almost the only kills they got. They did get 1 for Ducky and 1 for Johnny in the middle of a larger skirmish, kind of towards the mid-game, but Emil was really the only one who was able to find decent success for the Valkyries here, and that's where a lot of success has come from the Valkyries in their last couple of sets, has been finding something comfortable for Emil, allow him to try and pop off, allow him to get a little bit of lane pressure, and well, usually it sometimes works out, but the Titans, they didn't give up anything anywhere else. They said, okay, Cyclone, have a little fun over here. You might die once, you might die twice, but don't worry, we're going to get everything else across the board. Let's talk to the jungler himself for the Tartarus Titans, Layers, saying bye for our post-game interview. Pretty nice set there for you guys, Layers. Nice little pop-off to kind of round out game number 2, and congrats on now having the new record for fastest game in the SPL. I don't think I even need to ask, but I will. How does the jungle feel now for you?
It feels really good when you get uber ahead like that, and you have 3 maces in your pocket, on your back pocket. You go crazy.
Oh, Aurora looking out for you in the back there.
Yeah, he is looking out for me. He saw me with the 3 maces that game, so he was a little frightened himself.
Yeah, I think everybody may have been a little spooked, especially the Valkyries there. Outside of being able to pick up the 3 maces in this game, just kind of a general feel. How you liking the Assassins kind of rising back up here in the meta?
So the set against the Kings, I was still like stuck in my old ways with the Warriors, and now I'm a brand new man. I'm playing Assassins again. So, here we are. Assassins are a lot better than they were, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
with all the buffs. So they're really good.
You're showing it's looking pretty good here with those Assassins. Yeah. As we kind of get closer and closer to that group stage, is there any expectation for your team as far as the standings go? Maybe kind of seeing where you might be landing at the end of it.
I think we're gonna do well. I mean, we're only getting better in scrim, so I'm sure we'll probably land in like the top 3-ish, I'd say.
Well, good luck to you there. Congratulations on your 2-0 today, and get some rest for the rest of the weekend. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say when you can get triple mace and you can kind of pop off like that, jungle might just feel pretty good there, Mifflin.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're pulling that far ahead, right, you're going to look good, and the rest of your team's going to look good. Layers answered that as diplomatically as he could. And I don't think I could say anything better than what he did. You look good, Layers. Nice triple mace, Thanatos, 17,000, 18-minute, whatever. All your stats. Good stuff.
Yeah, good game here out of the Tartarus Titans. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what else we have available for you guys today here in the SPL. We've got the Olympus Bolts and the Camelot Kings. That's going to be our second match of the day now that we've wrapped up our 2-0 with the Titans and the Valhalla Valkyries. So with the win for the Tartarus Titans, they are done for the weekend. The Valhalla Valkyries, they still have one more set later on. Let's take a look at the standings and see where the Titans are able to move around because of that win. They'll be sitting at 3-1, so naturally they'll have more games than the rest of the teams right below them, so they move up to the 2nd seed. But with this next one is where we could see some shakeups in there between the Bolts and the Kings, both at 2-1. One of these is going to fall and be the actual 5th seed, and the other one could rise up to kind of tie the Tartarus Titans up here for 2nd seed.
Yeah, I think also keep your eyes on the Jade Dragons positioning, as they are going to be matched up against the Solar Scarabs a little bit later on this week. Could see them fall down to 2-2 or try and join the Tartarus Titans at 3-1. A lot of implications as far as standings go. Got to keep in tune with the SPL all weekend.
Yeah, so stick around for just a few more minutes. We're going to go to a break, and we'll get you guys set up for the second game. So get your snacks, get your drinks, go ahead and use the bathroom if you need to, and we'll be back in just a few.